I stepped off the human transport and felt the weight of 1,000 curious eyes. The planet stretched endlessly, its architecture a blend of crystal spires and floating walkways, a society built on precision and elegance. Aliens moved with a fluid grace that made humans look clumsy in comparison. I had trained for this moment, yet nothing could have prepared me for the intensity of their scrutiny. Every gesture, every glance, was measured, calculated, and designed to evaluate worthiness. Humanity was the outsider here, the unexpected guest in a world that saw us as fragile, primitive, and easily overlooked. The royal hall shimmered with bioluminescent lights, casting long, distorted reflections across polished floors. Delegates from other species bowed with mechanical precision, but the humans beside me fidgeted, aware of the subtle differences in posture, in eye contact, in breathing. I reminded myself to stay calm, to represent our species with dignity. The ceremony was a test, though none of us had been told precisely what we were being tested for. Every word spoken, every action observed, would be judged, and we would be measured against standards we barely understood. When she entered, I noticed her immediately. The princess moved with confidence, her presence commanding attention without effort. Her eyes, bright and intelligent, scanned the hall, eventually settling on me. I felt a ripple of tension pass through the assembly. The aliens were not accustomed to humans drawing notice, and here was someone daring to challenge their expectations. I clenched my hands, reminded myself to breathe, and met her gaze without faltering. The ceremony proceeded with the usual formalities. Greetings exchanged, protocols observed, rituals performed. I followed along as best I could, noting subtle gestures and unspoken rules. Aliens murmured in tones I did not understand, their language musical, yet alien to human ears. The royal parents observed us silently, their expressions unreadable. I sensed skepticism, the quiet judgment of beings accustomed to power and control. Then it happened. The princess raised her hand, pointed directly at me, and declared in a voice clear enough for all to hear, "I want him." The words reverberated through the hall like a thunderclap. Gasps, murmurs, shocked whispers. An entire court held its collective breath. I froze, uncertain whether I should bow, speak, or simply stand still. The human delegation beside me blinked in astonishment, unsure how to react. The royal parents' eyes widened. Their silence spoke volumes. No one had anticipated this declaration. My mind raced. I had been chosen, but why? What did she see that no one else did? Humans were considered weak here, fragile, ill-equipped to survive the demands of alien society. And yet, here I was, singled out by a being whose intellect and authority surpassed the expectations of her peers. I felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. Exhilaration because of the recognition, fear because the scrutiny had intensified. Every move I made from this point forward would be magnified, examined for flaws, for weakness, for signs that I did not belong. The princess's gaze did not waver. There was confidence, a spark of curiosity, and perhaps a hint of amusement. The court shifted uncomfortably. Whispers became more audible, a mixture of skepticism and incredulity. Eyes followed me as I stepped forward, trying to maintain composure. I realized this was no longer just a ceremonial moment. It was a challenge, a test of character, intellect, and resilience. I reminded myself of what humans were capable of. We had survived against impossible odds, adapted to environments that should have broken us, and thrived where others had failed. The aliens may have underestimated us, judged us by appearances, dismissed our strength as inconsequential. But I would show them that humanity was not to be overlooked, that our ingenuity, courage, and adaptability were assets in ways they had never imagined. The hall remained silent, tension thick in the air. I straightened my posture, met her gaze once more, and allowed a faint smile to cross my face. No words were necessary. The declaration had already been made. From this moment, everything would change. The game had begun, and humanity's role in this alien world was about to be revealed. Every expectation would be challenged, every assumption questioned, and through it all, I would prove that the species they underestimated was capable of far more than they could imagine. The princess lowered her hand, but did not look away. Her eyes held a promise, a challenge, a test that I was determined to meet. The court's murmurs continued, but I felt a quiet determination settle within me. This was more than a ceremony. It was the beginning of a story that would redefine how aliens saw humans and how humans would see themselves. And as I stood there, chosen yet unproven, I realized that this moment, unexpected, audacious, and extraordinary, would be remembered long after we left this hall. Acceptance was not immediate. The court's skepticism lingered, a heavy weight pressing down on every human gesture. Every step I took, every word I spoke, was analyzed. Aliens moved with deliberate precision, their expressions unreadable, yet I sensed judgment behind every glance. They expected failure, assumed fragility, and counted on humanity to falter. I reminded myself that weakness was relative and that adaptability had always been humanity's strongest weapon. The first challenge came almost immediately. A ceremonial puzzle lay before us, a complex construct of shifting panels and glowing symbols. Other species had faltered, relying on brute strength or rote memorization. I studied the design, noting subtle patterns, asymmetries, and sequences that seemed illogical at first glance. Where they saw chaos, I recognized opportunity. A human mind thrives on problem-solving in unexpected ways. I manipulated the symbols carefully, aligning them in ways that made sense from an intuitive, human perspective. The alien observers whispered among themselves, astonishment flickering across faces that rarely betrayed emotion. Diplomacy became equally important. Missteps were easy, cultural differences were vast. A gesture that meant respect to humans could imply offense to aliens. I observed closely, adapting in real time. When the elders spoke in tonal sequences, I responded with deliberate pauses and measured acknowledgement. The princess watched quietly, her gaze sharp and analytical, but there was a subtle hint of satisfaction. I could sense that human ingenuity was beginning to register, a quiet ripple of recognition among beings who had long dismissed us as fragile outsiders. Conversations revealed further trials. Aliens posed hypothetical dilemmas, testing logic, ethics, and problem-solving under pressure. I relied on core human principles, creativity, empathy, and resourcefulness to respond. Where others attempted perfection, I embraced flexibility. When confronted with impossible scenarios, I proposed solutions that combined reasoning with intuition, improvisation with analysis. Slowly, the tide of doubt began to shift. Observers leaned forward, silent acknowledgement replacing initial skepticism. Not all moments were victories. Missteps occurred, subtle errors in timing or phrasing, and the court noted them immediately. Each mistake was a lesson, each correction a demonstration of human resilience. The aliens, accustomed to their structured approach, watched as I adapted quickly, learning faster than any of their expectations allowed. In these moments, I realized that humanity's strength was not in perfection, but in our ability to endure, improvise, and transform setbacks into advantages. The princess occasionally intervened indirectly. A nod here, a subtle glance there, signaling hints or clarifications. She never spoke overtly on my behalf, yet her influence was undeniable. Her choice was bold, yes, but it demanded that I prove worthiness not just in skill, but in understanding the nuances of alien thought. This required intuition, creativity, and the courage to act independently under scrutiny. Humans excel at turning uncertainty into opportunity, and every small success reinforced the impression that we were not merely surviving, but excelling in ways the court had not anticipated. Gradually, my reputation shifted. Whispers of approval began to circulate. Other species muttered about human unpredictability, some impressed, others wary. What was considered weakness now became an advantage. The human ability to think beyond rigid structures, to improvise solutions on the fly, became apparent. Each small demonstration built credibility, and the court's attention shifted from doubt to cautious curiosity. The princess's earlier declaration, once shocking, now seemed prescient. Diplomatic interactions proved another stage of testing. Negotiations, subtle alliances, and discussions required careful balance. Aliens valued hierarchy, tradition, and precedent. I relied on reasoning, persuasion, and humanity's capacity to find compromise under pressure. Time and again, I turned potential conflicts into opportunities for respect, demonstrating that humans could navigate complexity without relying on dominance or coercion. These successes quietly impressed the court, building trust and acknowledgement in ways that rigid adherence to tradition could not. By the end of this period, the pattern was clear. Humans were no longer simply outsiders. Through observation, adaptation, and strategic action, I had begun to redefine expectations. The princess's choice was no longer merely personal. It was a symbol of humanity's potential, a challenge to a society that underestimated the value of creativity, courage, and perseverance. My position remained precarious, yes, but every interaction proved a principle. Humans thrive where others impose limits, excel where rules seem absolute, and transform doubt into opportunity. The court's mood shifted from skepticism to cautious respect. The elders still debated. The royal parents remained reserved, but their glances carried acknowledgement that humans were capable in ways they had refused to believe. The princess's eyes sparkled with satisfaction, as if recognizing that her audacity in pointing at me had triggered a revelation about her own society. We were entering a new phase, one that would test every skill, every principle, and every capacity humans possessed. It was clear that acceptance would not come easily. Challenges lay ahead that required more than intelligence or diplomacy. They demanded courage, creativity, and adaptability under scrutiny. Humans had survived because we excel in these areas, because we innovate under pressure, and because we refuse to submit to imposed limitations. Every test in this alien court was a stage to prove these qualities, and I embraced each one with resolve. The future depended not on conformity, but on demonstrating that human ingenuity could stand equal to, and sometimes surpass, even the most advanced civilizations. I understood the stakes. Every action now carried weight. Every decision had consequences. But alongside that understanding came confidence. Humanity had been underestimated for generations, yet our resourcefulness, adaptability, and unyielding determination were now evident. The princess's choice had set this process in motion, and I would honor it not with bravado, but with measured action that proved, beyond doubt, that humans were capable of greatness in any arena, no matter how alien. Word count: 1,000. The challenge escalated quickly. The princess and the elders devised a test that combined intellect, strategy, and resilience. It was designed to push outsiders to the edge, to reveal flaws and weaknesses that humans supposedly could not overcome. I accepted the challenge, aware that failure would confirm their expectations. But humans have a history of thriving in uncertainty, of finding solutions when rules seem impossible to follow. The test began with a complex sequence of mechanical and cognitive obstacles. Panels shifted unpredictably, symbols altered their meaning with each movement, and time was a scarce commodity. Other candidates faltered immediately, their approaches rigid, predictable, and constrained by conventional thinking. I relied on observation first, patience second, and creativity third. I noticed patterns that others missed, relationships between elements that were invisible at first glance. With careful adjustments, I transformed apparent chaos into a manageable system, aligning components in ways the aliens had never anticipated. Physical endurance was next. It was not sheer strength but coordination and adaptability that mattered. Alien trials emphasized controlled motion, precision, and stamina. I observed and adapted, moving in ways that respected their expectations yet utilized human flexibility and improvisation. Where others struggled, I found alternative approaches that maintained effectiveness without violating the intended challenge. Each step forward reinforced the emerging pattern. Humans do not rely solely on strength or tradition, but on adaptability, intelligence, and creativity under pressure. The psychological component tested reaction to unexpected situations. Scenarios shifted abruptly, forcing candidates to choose between impossible options. Panic and hesitation were punished. I relied on the human capacity to improvise, analyzing consequences, predicting outcomes, and selecting solutions that balance logic with intuition. The aliens observed with increasing fascination, their expressions revealing glimpses of surprise and grudging respect. The princess's eyes followed every action, occasionally narrowing in approval or curiosity, subtly guiding but never interfering directly. Teamwork was introduced unexpectedly. I was paired with other species to solve collaborative problems. Communication barriers were formidable, protocols unfamiliar, and priorities often conflicting. Humans excel where rigid systems fail. I facilitated understanding, translating intentions into actionable strategies, mediating disagreements, and creating synergy among participants. The result was efficiency and success that exceeded expectations. Where others relied solely on authority, humans leveraged cooperation and ingenuity. The final trial tested risk and initiative. The task appeared designed for failure, with no clear path to completion. Other candidates hesitated, weighed possibilities endlessly, and stagnated. I acted decisively, embracing uncertainty and using a combination of observation, intuition, and improvisation. Every small success built momentum, turning an impossible scenario into achievable objectives. Observers whispered in astonishment, and even the strictest elders could not deny the pattern emerging. Humans adapt, overcome, and succeed in ways that challenge conventional assumptions. Throughout the trials, the princess remained a silent, yet compelling presence. Her initial declaration had set the stage, and now it became evident why she had chosen me. She recognized human potential before others could, understanding that strength is not merely physical, that intelligence is not linear, and that courage often manifests in unexpected forms. Each success reinforced her choice, subtly shifting the court's perception from skepticism to admiration. The trials concluded with an evaluation. Humans were not merely participants. We had redefined the parameters of the challenge. Observers admitted, quietly and reluctantly, that our approach was effective, innovative, and beyond what their structured systems could predict. The princess's satisfaction was clear, a quiet acknowledgement that her audacious choice had been validated. This was more than personal preference. It was proof that humanity could thrive where others imposed limits, that we could transform doubt into achievement. Recognition followed immediately. The elders, once rigid and dismissive, nodded in acknowledgement. They were not effusive, but their measured respect carried weight. The royal parents exchanged glances, no longer expressions of doubt, but contemplation and acceptance. The court's murmurs shifted from disbelief to analysis, curiosity now replacing judgment. Humanity had earned credibility through demonstration, not assertion, through action rather than words. I reflected on what had occurred. Humans had succeeded not because we were invincible or inherently superior, but because we are adaptable, resourceful, and persistent. We excel in uncertainty, improvise where systems fail, and persevere where rigidity dominates. The trials had showcased these qualities unmistakably. The princess's choice, initially shocking and audacious, now appeared visionary. Her decision had catalyzed an acknowledgement of humanity's potential, turning skepticism into admiration, doubt into recognition. The process had tested more than skill, it had tested character. Humanity proved capable of navigating complexity, embracing uncertainty, and demonstrating leadership without coercion. The princess's confidence in me was not blind. It was rooted in understanding what humans bring to the table: creativity, resilience, and a willingness to act decisively in situations others would avoid. Every challenge conquered reinforced this truth, leaving no doubt about our capacity to rise above expectations. By the end of the trials, the court had shifted irreversibly. Humans were no longer considered fragile or inferior. Our ingenuity, adaptability, and courage had been displayed in full measure, redefining perceptions of our species. The princess's choice was not an anomaly. It was a recognition of the unique strengths humans possess, strengths that could stand equal to, or even surpass, those of the most advanced civilizations. The moment was transformative. The princess's eyes held quiet pride, the court's scrutiny softened into cautious respect, and I understood that this was only the beginning. Humanity had proven its worth, but the journey toward full acceptance and alliance required continued demonstration of our principles and capabilities. What had begun as a shocking declaration had evolved into a testament. Humans can thrive where others impose limits, succeed where doubt prevails, and redefine the standards of strength, intelligence, and resilience. The final recognition came quietly, yet it carried weight that could not be denied. The princess reaffirmed her choice, declaring once more, "I want him," and this time the words were met not with shock, but with acknowledgement. The court, the elders, and even the royal parents now understood that her decision was more than personal. It symbolized a shift in perception, a recognition of human potential. Humanity had proven itself, and the acknowledgement rippled through the alien society like a silent declaration of respect. Diplomatic proceedings followed, transforming the moment of recognition into a foundation for cooperation. I was invited to participate in negotiations, not as a visitor, but as a partner. Humans, once underestimated, were now seen as equals in thought, strategy, and innovation. Ideas were exchanged, plans were debated, and decisions were made that would influence the futures of both species. Every proposal I contributed was met with serious consideration, a validation of the adaptability and ingenuity humans bring to problem-solving. The princess observed throughout, her presence a reminder of the audacity that had sparked this transformation. Her initial declaration had challenged norms, disrupted assumptions, and forced a reconsideration of long-held beliefs. Now, her choice had catalyzed tangible results. Humans were no longer outsiders to be tolerated, but participants whose input carried measurable impact. The alliance that began as a personal statement had evolved into a societal acknowledgement of shared potential. Trust between humans and the alien court deepened as we demonstrated our capabilities further. Projects that initially seemed impossible were undertaken collaboratively. Alien technology combined with human creativity produced solutions neither could achieve alone. Protocols were redesigned to incorporate human intuition and adaptability. Where rigidity once limited efficiency, collaboration enabled innovation. Through every interaction, humans proved that we could thrive without domination, succeed without coercion, and contribute meaningfully to a society initially built to exclude us. The royal parents, once skeptical, began to engage with me in ways that reflected measured respect. Their questions were thoughtful, their observations considerate. I answered with honesty, clarity, and strategic insight, reflecting the qualities humans consistently bring to complex challenges: adaptability, logic, and creativity. The princess's eyes occasionally met mine, a quiet acknowledgement of shared understanding and mutual purpose. It was evident that our relationship symbolized more than preference. It was a demonstration of what humanity could accomplish when trusted and given opportunity. A formal alliance was established. Humans would collaborate with the alien society on trade, research, and exploration initiatives. Alien leaders expressed cautious optimism, now confident that humans were capable of not only contributing, but enhancing their civilization. Our input was sought on complex problems, our solutions respected, and our perspectives valued. The alliance was no longer hypothetical, it was active, functional, and mutually beneficial. Humanity had transformed from curiosity to credibility in a single, extraordinary journey. Reflection revealed the significance of every step. From the moment the princess pointed at me, expectations had shifted. Skepticism became observation, doubt became respect, and misunderstanding evolved into acknowledgement of capability. Every challenge had been an opportunity to demonstrate what humans do best: adapt, innovate, and persevere where others might falter. The trials, the diplomacy, and the collaborative efforts had shown that strength is not always physical, and intelligence is not always predictable. Human potential is defined by creativity, resilience, and the ability to thrive under pressure. The princess's choice, audacious and unconventional, had highlighted a truth long overlooked. Humanity excels in uncertainty, innovation, and leadership through action rather than assertion. By standing firm, adapting quickly, and demonstrating strategic insight, humans earn trust and respect that others might have deemed impossible. This acknowledgement transformed perceptions, proving that our species can navigate complexity, defy expectations, and emerge stronger even in the most alien of environments. The court, now openly respectful, engaged in discussions that were once unthinkable. Suggestions, solutions, and strategies were considered based on merit rather than origin. Human contributions shaped policy, innovation, and interspecies collaboration. Our perspective, unbound by rigid tradition yet grounded in logic and creativity, introduced efficiencies and solutions the aliens had never anticipated. The alliance matured rapidly, founded on evidence of capability and reinforced by the ongoing demonstration of adaptability and intellect. The princess's approval remained a quiet but powerful force. Her decision had been a catalyst, her foresight now validated. Through her bold declaration, she had challenged societal norms, expanded possibilities, and showcased the potential of recognizing strength where it was least expected. Humanity's resilience and ingenuity had transformed perception into respect, skepticism into collaboration, and audacious declaration into enduring partnership. As the process concluded, I understood the larger significance. Humans had been underestimated, judged by appearances and assumptions, yet we had proved that adaptability, intelligence, and courage define true capability. The princess's initial choice had been a spark. Our actions sustained the fire. Together, humans and aliens had formed a partnership that would influence generations, demonstrating that recognition of potential, collaboration, and mutual respect could redefine expectations, break barriers, and create a shared future built on trust, skill, and vision. The outcome was clear. Humanity had earned its place not through force, but through intellect, ingenuity, and perseverance. The princess's audacious choice had initiated a transformation that extended beyond a single declaration. It had set the stage for a new era where humans are seen as capable, adaptable, and invaluable. Where once we were outsiders, we were now collaborators, leaders, and respected participants in a civilization that had underestimated us. The alliance was no longer symbolic. It was living proof of what humanity could accomplish when its potential was acknowledged, its strengths trusted, and its ingenuity allowed to flourish.